Shall we begin, friends? Christina, are we ready? Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to this service to celebrate the life of David Cornis, born January 30th, 1947, died July 11th, 2024. We gather here to speak his name, to recall his face, the sound of his voice, and the spirit of life that filled him through his days. And I think the voices of children are fine in this sanctuary, so don't feel like you have to leave. We come here today aware that we have lost a beloved father, husband, grandfather, friend, and companion. We are aware that someone precious and wonderful will no longer bless our presence. And yet we come to celebrate the time that was ours to share with David, to speak our gratitude for his life and that has touched us and enriched our days. We gather here in the presence of mystery. The loss of a loved one cannot help but remind us that the gift of life that we enjoy is fragile and precious. It is a mystery that we live, that the steady pounding of our heart pumps blood through our arteries and veins, that breathing in and breathing out, the oxygen in the air feeds us and nourishes us. It is a mystery that we know the pleasure of hands touching, the delight of taste and smell. Death, too, is a mystery to us. We have emerged from unconsciousness to live and move and be in the world, and then when our time is done, to return, as David has, to that great mystery beyond. It is good to be together this day. Pat, will you help with lighting the chalice? Would you join with me in saying the words for lighting the chalice? They'll be projected. We light this chalice in honor of life's sacred dance of living and dying. May its flames remind us of those who have passed as fragments of holiness. May it remind us that we too are participants in the dance. I did not have the pleasure of knowing David, of meeting him before his death. And so instead of my offering some telling of his life, we are going to collaborate together to tell the story. We have a couple of remembrances from family members that are going to be read, and then you will be invited to join in telling some stories so that we get a picture of who David was, so that we remember him in his fullness and his beauty. So for the letters, please come forward.
Hello, I'm Rob, Judy's son. This is from his brother-in-law, who is my uncle, Terry Walters. Dave was a great brother-in-law. Even though we only got together on certain occasions, I really enjoyed our conversations. I knew David was a loving father and husband, and you could see that in the things we talked about. He was smart and caring. David was also a good listener, and that meant a lot to me. I do not think I ever saw David get riled. He had some great stories to tell, and it was fun to hear them. I was impressed by both his historical and political knowledge. His positive outlook on life was a key trait. Even though I only had a few conversations with him in the past couple of years, it was always a great feeling after talking to him. He will be missed. We send our love and sympathy to all the family members, and we'll remember the great times we had when the family got together. Love, Terry and Becky Walters. This is from Joshua Sipe, David's nephew. I have a great number of memories of Uncle David, and as I'm thinking about him and remembering him so fondly, a few key things come to mind immediately and percolate to the top. Firstly, Uncle David had such a wonderful, positive, indomitable attitude. He never complained and always had an optimistic outlook, good attitude, and positive, generous approach. I'd have been hard-pressed to ever know on any given day that we spoke whether he was having a great day or a tough one. He always seemed to act the same and embraced the day the same way. It was especially impressive to me for someone like Uncle Dave, who had more than his fair share of hard days to tackle. I've always thought that was such a wonderful gift, an admirable quality, an aspirational way to live. He was a good mix of Mama Serna and Papa Mike. The nobly stubborn determination and drive from Mama to the positivity and spreading of joy from Papa. I will take that and keep that with me. Secondly, Uncle David was so kind and loving. He met the world with that spirit, and it was touching. One specific act of kindness I'll always remember was when he gave me Papa Mike's money clip that had been left to him. I'm not sure how, but he always knew it was something that I'd found special, and that reminded me of Papa. One day, sometime after Papa Mike had died, out of the blue, Uncle David just handed it to me and said he wanted me to have it. I was stunned and again touched. It was unexpected and meant so much on several levels. I remember thinking of the power of an act of unexpected kindness, and I'll take that with me too. Now it reminds me of both of them. Thirdly, Uncle David always, or at least often, sent birthday cards. We were kindred spirits on that, or at least I used to be, before adulthood and kids hijacked my brain, maybe again one day. And lastly, I'll always remember his deep, breathy belly laugh, complete with wheezing, if I could really get him going. I sometimes worried how long it was going to be before he caught his breath again. It was charming, and for me, a motivation. He was easy and quick to laugh, another admirable trait. I miss him a great deal, and I'm thankful for having him in my life. Love, Josh. And this is from Robert Cornis, his brother. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Doing great. How about you? That would be the typical back-and-forth opening conversation whenever I called to check in with my long-suffering brother. David never, ever complained about his situation. In the last few years, the conversation would rarely go much beyond that. I usually made an effort to fill Dave in on the goings-on with our family in Chicago and in Arizona, and as we were entering our call, David would always close with, "Give my love to Sue." Susan and I had the comfort of knowing, even as David's physical health and dementia were sliding on a downward slope, that he still knew who we were when we conversed. Just a few days before his passing, on a FaceTime call set up by Lenny, Dave looked happy and relaxed, eating a chocolate chip cookie. Growing up in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, David was a smart and curious kid. I have fond memories of him helping me with my weekly Southeast Economist newspaper route and stopping at a local deli for a dill pickle when we finished. In spite of a terrible auto bike accident on his way home from Hebrew school at our synagogue, which left him in a coma for several weeks, Dave finished high school and college, got married, raised a family, and was a loving father to his 2 daughters, Carolyn and Sarah. Dave always cherished his time at our family gatherings with his girls, our parents Serna and Mike, and our sister Terry, husband Gary, and Susan and I, and all of our children, Brad, Leslie, Josh, Laura, and Noah. After being single for a few years, Dave met his wife Judith, got married, moved to Washington State, and started a new life out west. Following David's hip replacement debacle, Judith became his full-time caregiver. Although she was a saint and took wonderful care of Dave, he became too much for one person to handle. David was moved to King's Palace Adult Family Home, where he received wonderful care from Lenny and Jess. Whenever I talked to Dave, he would always tell me how much he enjoyed living at King's and what wonderful care and home-cooked food he was receiving from Lenny and Jess. I think we're all pretty fortunate that Judy and her family were able to find King's and arrange for David's fantastic care. Goodbye, my little brother. I love you, and may God rest your soul and your memory be for a blessing.
Before we invite stories, we're going to hear Amazing Grace. So please, Kestron. How very lovely. Thank you so much. I could see the smiles out in the congregation. So, friends, let's share some stories. What do you remember? Was a moment when David was being so David, he couldn't be any more David. What were the things that lit up his heart? It was a moment that you remember especially because of the kindness or joy that filled it. We have any? Yes, please. Why don't you come on up? And Christine, can we get a microphone just in case we need to take it down?
Hi, I'm Andy Voss. I'm Deb's husband, Deb's Judith's daughter, just to link me to David. And I just want to echo some of the comments that were made from others this morning on David's presence. I've known David for more than 20 years, and he had an ease about him that made him unique. And with that ease came calm, a nice sense of humor. So I take away from my relationship with David fond memories of family gatherings, of his calm and easy presence, his light sense of humor, always added a certain amount of calm to our gatherings that, family gatherings can often be a little bit chaotic, so it was always nice to have his calm presence. So we'll miss him for that.
Is there a portable mic?
That's what we're getting it. It's on its way.
Hi, I'm John and I were.
Yeah, it's on. It's on. Just close and speak up.
John and I are next door neighbors to Judith and David, and this is the David I knew. I love this picture. It's like he's here with us. And I don't really have a big story to tell, but I remember one incident. We were always welcome in their house, and they made every effort to make us feel good and cheerful, and David was always right on. But the one thing that I remember, and I may be wrong about this, but David had, he had a little pill box that was new. It was something special about it. And he wanted us to know all about it. He brought it out and showed us how excited he was to have it. And it was pretty much, his life had slowed down so much, but he always was ready for a game or a movie or whatever he could imagine. We all tried to make it happen. Thanks.
I'll add on what Carol said. We bought our property right next to Judy and David while they had just finished building their very beautiful house. And we then proceeded to plan our house, keeping theirs in mind as kind of a model. So we got to know them that way. But David, I knew, had been a very active bicycle rider, as I was and still try to be. And about the tragic accident that he had that led to his condition. But he was always a bright, alert person. He loved to talk about current events and politics and be very welcoming when we visited. And we had meetings for our 7-home community homeowners association in their house and felt very welcome there. And we missed him when he and Judy left. We visited them since they left, and of course very saddened that Judy has lost David, although we had a nice visit with Judy earlier today. So.
Zepp. Judy is my mother-in-law. One thing I really always appreciated about Dave was his complete passion for current events. And if there was ever something that was kind of bothering me that was happening if I was over at their house, I would just sort of mention it, and he would just go off on this tirade about the injustices of it, and I didn't have to do anything. Like, he would take care of it for me. And I don't like getting too worked up, so I appreciated that he was able to vocalize that for me.
Yes?
My husband is insisting that I tell a story. I'm Carolyn. I'm David's daughter. When we came to Port Townsend for Thanksgiving, my dad took us to the airport cafe, and Judy asked him to get a coffee mug. And he was like, we already have one. And she's like, that's okay, I want another one. And he was like, okay, fine. So we went and ate, and when we were done, I was like, remember, Judy wanted a coffee mug. Oh yeah, get another coffee mug. So he wasn't too thrilled about it because he already had one, and he wanted to spend money on another one, but he did get the other coffee mug.
He took directions well, sometimes at least. Other moments, other stories? Yes.
I was going to echo what Zepp just said. As I read this line from Terry about never seeing him riled, I've seen him riled, and it usually was from when he was watching the TV news and having some thoughts about it. And like Zepp, I was like, right on, man. But also, while maybe he did not want to buy an extra mug since he already had one, for those of you who have been in this building before, certain times a year, the sun blasts right through that window up there, blindingly. And it's beautiful sometimes when it's just pure blue and like a seagull flies by, but it's not cool when it hits you in the face. But his generosity helped pay for that exact shade. And I've sat in here very appreciative.
I'm Tom, and Gloria and I live on the other side of the Cornis, house, so we were next door neighbors with them too, and I have really fun memories of just coming over and chatting with David. He had such a positive attitude. I mean, with all that issue that he had with the hip and so forth, it would have been very easy for him to feel down, but he didn't act that way. And after Judy could no longer drive, then I would take them out in their van, which was an adventure in itself. They both had really enjoyed it, but it had hand controls built into it. And I don't know if you've ever tried to drive a vehicle and activate the accelerator or the brake with your hands. It's an interesting adventure.
Okay, good.
It's a small moment, but, oh, hello. I have a small moment to share. Through Dave's relentless need for surgeries and things, we would often go visit them through the years as he was recovering or basically recovering. He had a lot of recovering to do, more than his fair share of recovery. But I had, during these years, really active young kids who didn't sit well for visits. And we would often be visiting him bedside or sitting in the living room while he's in his wheelchair. Well, the vision that comes to mind is of a day where Andy and I took the kids out with their bikes to get some of that energy out so that they could sit and visit with him some more. And if you can just imagine, the chair was a recent acquisition, the electric chair, the upgrade from the manual. And my kids, my husband and I think you had a bike. Did you have a trike? My mom had a tricycle. Dave had his electric chair. And my kids and my family and I all had our bikes, and we just whizzed around the cul-de-sac for the afternoon. And there's a fabulous picture that I couldn't find that my mom requested, but wanted to share the vision.
Okay, John's got another one.
I remember very fondly memories of David riding his electric wheelchair up and down the road with his dog on his lap. And it was a source of great pleasure for him, and he went out regularly, I think at least daily, because I often saw him out there and talked to him.
A different version of walking the dog, yeah. Friends, do we have more? Another story to share? Thank you for your sharing, for the words that you have shared, for the memories that you have shared. I know there are many, many more there out there with you all. I was asked to include this reading, poem by Wendell Berry, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life or my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. I invite you to take a moment with me for a time of just quiet reflection together, for maybe some meditation or prayer, as is most your custom. You might want to settle into your seat, close your eyes if that's comfortable, and take a few breaths. Spirit of love and life, be with us today in our grief and mourning. One we have loved is gone, and we raise up our hearts in thanksgiving for his time among us. Remind us that in our world, what is most precious and dear is also the most fragile. The breath of life is a transitory gift, and we cannot predict when it shall be taken from us. More often than not, we take for granted this gift of life and the gift of those around us who enrich our lives. Be with us in this moment of loss, this time when we are so aware of those gifts. Know how fragile and how precious they are, and how quickly they can slip from us. Today, as we remember David with love and grief, may we find new resolve to speak to each other of our affection and respect. May we find resolve to live lives that are gentle and kind, which seek to brighten the lives of those around us. May our time for grief be for us a time as we return to our lives with new insight and commitment to be present with each other in love and in peace. So may it be. When the real stories get told is often when we gather around tables, eating and drinking together. So I invite all of you to come and be present at our reception over in our fellowship hall. I gather that David had a particular fondness for chocolate chip cookies. And early on in the planning, it wasn't remembered that this might be something that would be good to have at the reception. So on the way here, people stopped and bought some. And then the caterer, who was only going to bring, what kind of cookie was it? Yeah, little bars, oatmeal bars. For reasons that cannot be discerned, decided that she also needed to make a batch of chocolate chip cookies. So friends, we will celebrate David's life by enjoying the chocolate chip cookies and each other's company and each other's ongoing stories as we go to the fellowship hall. But first, these words also from Wendell Berry, words that are what I close memorial services with because they speak so well to where we are and these words. He goes free of the earth. The sun of his last day sets clear in the sweetness of his liberty. The earth recovers from his dying, the hallow of his life remaining in all that his death leaves. Radiances know him. Grown lighter than breath, he is set free in our remembering. Grown brighter than vision, he goes dark into the life of the hill that holds his peace. He is hidden among all that is and cannot be lost. So may it be.